big story that we are first tracking on the show, which is about what exactly is it that Donald Trump has said and what does this mean for the India-US trade. I'm going to try and explain that, given the fact that there's just one line and a couple of sentences that Donald Trump has said about such a complex issue as far as the big claims that he has made, and we're going to try and decode. First up, the big tariff claims that he has said is that India has offered a zero tariff deal as far as US is concerned. What does this mean in terms of which are the products where it's likely to happen? How soon will that happen? What has been the give and take on this? No detail whatsoever. So why exactly is it that this announcement has been made? We're going to decode that. Second, not interested in Apple building in India, must build in the US. Now, that's a very direct statement coming in. Remember, Apple is a private company. Its shareholders should be deciding where its products should be manufactured, not US president, especially for a country that is the epitome of capitalism, capitalist interests. But that's another thing that Donald Trump has said. Now, I'm going to now talk about the trade statistics that exist. It is about $129 billion, our largest trading partner. The kind of deficit that US runs, it's a surplus for us, which is at $45 billion, something that is not palatable to the president, simply because his entire campaign is around we need surpluses and not deficits. He then talks about these are the kind of tariffs he imposed, remember, on Liberation Day, 27% plus 10%. It's been on pause right now, and that 90-day window expires early July. And till then, India wants to ensure that it closes a deal. Let's now talk about the key sectors that are in the play. Agriculture, that is a politically sensitive subject, politically significant issue that the BJP and the government may not be in a position to have that much of an elbow room, something that Donald Trump wants. Some of the other sectors, machinery, pharma, electrical, chemical, textiles and iron steel, these are the sectors which are set to be impacted, where give and take has been happening. What does this mean? I want to first play out that soundbite of President Trump and then come back and try and decode what are essentially cryptic sentences about a very complex issue.
We have Apple, as you know, is coming in. And I had a little problem with Tim Cook yesterday. I said to him, Tim, you're my friend. I treated you very good. You're coming in with $500 billion, but now I hear you're building all over India. I don't want you building in India. You can build in India if you want to take care of India, because India is one of the highest tariff nations in the world. It's very hard to sell into India. And they've offered us a deal where basically they're willing to literally charge us no tariff. So we go from the highest tariff, you couldn't do business in India, we're not even a top 30 in India because the tariff is so high, to a point where they have actually told us, I assume you too, Scott, you were working on that also, that there will be no tariff.
All right, the big questions that we always ask on India Global. First up, what's really behind these repeated tariff claims that Donald Trump has been making? Remember, it's just one side that's making these claims, not India. Remember, it has to be done in a bilateral fashion. The second key question that we are putting forth is, can India really afford to drop all tariffs and duties on American goods? Because this is not just about a single trade deal. It's also about protecting domestic industry, finding that perfect balance. The third, equally important, is what will India's WTO action mean for trade talks? We have actually taken up an issue regarding American steel and aluminium all the way to the WTO. What happens to that complaint? Which sectors will be impacted the most? We put that out, some of those contentious issues. And lastly, what happens to the trade deal that has been in the works? 13th of February is when Prime Minister Modi met Donald Trump. Since then, trade talks have been going on. They've made a lot of progress. What happens to those in the backdrop of this kind of an announcement that's been made? I want to put that out. These questions to Dr. Pralok Gupta from IIFT, Dr. Amitendu Palit, who's joining us. He's from the National University of Singapore, and Peter Cardillo, Chief Market Economist of Spartan Capital Securities. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me. I want to start with Dr. Gupta and Dr. Palit. The question I want to ask you is, what do you make of the announcement? And more importantly, what do you think is the kind of impact that the Indian economy will face with a zero tariff on all US goods, kind of a sweeping possibility of a policy action? Dr. Palit, let me start with you.
Thank you, Gaurie, for inviting me on your show. A pleasure to be here with you, as always. I think when two countries negotiate a bilateral trade agreement, it is only expected that they will reduce tariffs on each other's trade. I mean, that is a given. There's nothing really very big or very dramatic about what President Trump has said, number one. The second point is that there are a lot of numbers which can be put out without they actually meaning much. Let us say if it's something like India is removing tariffs on 90% of the trade between India and the United States. What it might mean actually is that 90% of the tariff lines that are being traded between India and the US might actually be removed from tariffs. But out of those 90% tariff lines, only a few might actually be worth significant bilateral trade between the two countries. So while statistically that might appear to be a very big deal, in reality, it really does not make a very big difference. And the third point that I would like to make here is that as far as the US trade policy is concerned, tariffs are being taken as an instrument for serving multiple goals. And the
Indeed.
trade goal is just one of them. We have just come out in the context of President Trump's tariffs of the Indo-Pakistan conflict.
Absolutely.
They
Serve all interests. Trade is just one
Yeah.
of them. So just hold your thought there, because I want to quickly
Sure.
get in Dr. Gupta with his comments regarding A, the kind of impact that this would have, and B, sir, as I said, this is a bilateral trade negotiation where back and forth is happening. Do you really think that it should just be one side making cryptic sentences, threatening an American company, which should be ideally driven only by its shareholders' interests and not by trying to appease the president?
So, absolutely, Gaurie. I start with your second comment that the threatening American companies to shift their investment or production facility from India to US and making this kind of a statement that zero. I think it's all pressure tactics, and I would say that making any claim that India has offered zero tariff it's too early at this stage, because the deal is neither yet concluded nor yet signed. What is very clear at this point of time that both sides are negotiating a bilateral trade deal. They are having a good engagement. There are positive signals from both the sides that the negotiations are happening in a very nice way. But it is still on the way. So making any claim that India has offered
It's
zero
premature.
tariff across.
It's premature.
It's premature, absolutely.
And should have been avoided.
Just one more thing that President Trump has this history of making some claims which are not supported by facts. If you remember, when our Prime Minister went in February, then they said that the US-India deficit is 100 billion, which is only around 45 to 46 billion dollar. Now also India-Pakistan issue, they said that it's 1,000-year-old between India and
He also
Pakistan.
said 1,500 actually. He even said 1,500.
1,000, 1,500, absolutely. So that is also not correct. So he has this history
actually,
of,
which is an important point, Dr. Gupta, and I want to take that to Peter, which is that these off-the-cuff comments about issues that are so serious in nature, so long-term in nature, which require so much of paperwork to be done, people may not understand that every duty across every product that gets changed, and there is multiple layers of paperwork that has to be done. Peter, why do you think these comments are being made off the cuff? Some would even say random, some would say premature.
Well, I think, President Trump basically throws out a lot of thoughts out to the marketplace, and usually beneath the surface there is some sort of volatility towards it. And I think we saw that with the China deal, when China was saying that there were no talks and Trump was saying there were, and then finally they came to some a mutual announcement. And I think this is probably what's happening here with India. There's no doubt in my mind that there will be a trade deal with India, and probably it's going to be one of the first among big nations. Whether or not, we're looking at a one-sided trade deal, I doubt that very much. I don't think India is going to do that. but I would suspect that there is some sort of volatility in terms of maybe certain products having no tariffs, and maybe some will. So I think that's probably going to be the final results.
Absolutely. One needs to also point out that in the wake of all that has happened in the last 1 week or so, there is also a very large section of people who feel that these off-the-cuff comments, speaking when, you shouldn't be, or making comments that cannot be backed by facts, actually do have an impact on a bilateral relationship. Dr. Palit, let me then ask you this question, which is that these comments made about Apple being one instance comes after Apple said that it wants to move its production away from China more into India. India is also a country where the production has crossed 1 lakh crore. In the backdrop of that, the fact is, US is the mecca of capitalism, isn't it? Donald Trump is in fact on a Middle East tour, isn't he? Mecca of capitalism should know better than to say anything that may not be in the best interest of shareholders. Why is he saying this? These are pressure tactics, but will US Inc. give in to those?
Gaurie, you'd know that there was an executive order which was issued a couple of days ago on local manufacturing in the United States, incentivizing local manufacturing without actually giving out any specific terms as to how those will be incentivized. I don't think this is a very big deal in the sense that this is a continuation of the CHIPS Act and the IRA policies that was followed by the earlier Biden administration. It's just that on this particular occasion, there is a call that as much of American production as possible should be brought back to the United States, which is purely by way of a call. But as you pointed out, I think American businesses are very much conscious about the fact that there is an economics that work in their global production planning and global production establishments. So in that respect, I don't see any possibility of Apple vacating the kind of plans that it has put in motion at this point in time. And as you very correctly said, this could also might mean a tangential signal to the Indian trade negotiators to indicate that, look, don't probably think that Apple and the fact that it is producing in India can be used as a bargaining chip to declare the fact that India is a great market for US businesses. Apple might very well come back to its home.
Absolutely.
Which I think is just a way of spinning a particular narrative. Which really doesn't hold much water.
Very quickly, I want to get both Peter as well as Dr. Gupta. Peter, to you, will this narrative sell as far as American companies, corporations are concerned?
Could you repeat that, please?
I'm saying these pressure tactics by US President, will it work for American companies, making them go back to America from India?
Well, I think that's what President Trump wants, but will that happen? I'm not sure. There's a lot of cost factors there. And then, of course, there's another problem. Producing in foreign countries is much cheaper than it is here in the United States, both in terms of labor requirements and also in purchase of manufacturing goods. So whether that is doable, I'm not sure.
Yes.
I'm sure there'll be some companies that
will give in to this. We'll have to give in to this.
States, but the majority, I think, is not likely to happen.
Absolutely. Very quickly, Dr. Gupta, due to paucity of time, 30 seconds, what happens to the India-US trade talks? Where are they? The pact?
They are progressing well, and it was informed in the media that ministerial level delegation is going to US. So as I said in my initial remarks, that both sides are negotiating this agreement, and this is progressing well. So that is the only thing that is certain at this point of time.
In the times of uncertainty, that's the only certainty. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me on this edition of India Global.